I actually just kind of want to start this conversation with praise. It's absolutely my favorite film that I saw at Sundance. My friends and I have not stopped talking about how incredible this movie is as a storytelling and a theatrical experience. So, congratulations on being a big part of what makes this movie feel so grand and so important. With that said, I'm going to start with this question and hope that this kind of sets the tone for the rest of our conversation. But if I told you that all that's left of you feels like a very strong early Oscar contender, what would you say to that?
Um, yeah, I think I hope so. I mean, I think also today is a feels like a special day because I'm in a shock. I just watched the Trump speeches and
Mhm.
I'm speechless.
Yeah.
It's kind of shocking, yeah, to see how many lives are being erased and how easy it is for politicians to just erase history and just say that this land is demolished anyways and there's no house standing, so let's do something different with it. So I don't know, I just feel that this film is really important just to keep those stories alive. So I hope it gets to the Oscars in a way, like I hope it reaches people and people start watching and be aware of that and not just dump history and um yeah, and then look
Yeah.
back.
I absolutely hear what you're saying. This is certainly this movie was definitely like an educational experience for me as well. And so, this is the magic of filmmaking and storytelling in film is to be able to reach people with super important stories that we may not be exposed to or may not be aware of otherwise. So, that's why Sundance is such a great platform for stories like these. Um, let's talk about your involvement with the film. How did you become a part of this project?
So Shireen, the director, she knew a friend of hers who's a filmmaker who was preparing a film with me, and she was familiar with my work, I think, with Capernaum mostly, and sent me the script. And to me, just reading the script felt like this is one of the films that I feel are important to do, and that's why I do cinema the way I do it. It's just to find stories that need to be told. Uh, yeah, so
Mhm.
that's how I got on the film.
Yeah. For those who are just discovering the film, the synopsis of it is pretty much all that's left of you really kind of traces the trauma inflicted on a displaced Palestinian family, and how that trauma had lingering, devastating effects over multiple generations. And so I was personally struck with how living with this story, how effective it was at communicating, those themes here. So, one of the big things about production that I kind of want to jump into is how much of a logistical challenge it was. Give me your account of how, of what happened with having to adjust production to, what was going on.
Mhm. So it was in the beginning not easy to do the film in the first place because we were shooting in the West Bank and in Tel Aviv and Haifa, and we had props like cars or costumes that needed and even crew that needed to be working on both sides on in the West Bank and in Israel proper. So alone that was a logistical issue because we needed to do permits and to find cars that we could be using in the West Bank and outside. So before October the 7th, already that film was challenging. And then after the 7th of October, we didn't believe, like we didn't want to believe that what was happening. So we kept pushing and constructing our sets in the West Bank. We had a house that we built and we were still working on it. And on the 10th of October, we decided like to leave because it was just like the West Bank was being blocked and because of production insurance issues and things, we had to leave. So after that, we started filming in Cyprus and then in Jordan and had to rescout everything. So we were prepping the film again in Cyprus and then Jordan and then in Greece where we shot the final part of the film.
Yeah,
Uh,
I wasn't able to attend the premiere screening of the film, but I did go back and watch Sharon's Q&A talking about like how much uncertainty was that surrounded this production. I think she said you guys filmed a total of 55 days, but it took you 12 months to film those 55 days.
Yeah, correct. So initially the film was planned for 37 days. Um, and after October, we had to we had to split like the days in different countries, and we ended up having 55 days. And because of fundings and having to rescout, it took us 12 months to find like to always reschedule in a different country and then shoot. So
Well,
yeah,
I
so
mean,
it's yeah.
that's incredible how much belief you had in this project to stick with it. I mean, ideally, it's nice to have everybody be a part of the project from start to finish. But I know Sharon was talking about how, there were some people in the cast and crew that had to drop out, and again, all that uncertainty. But you really stuck it out.
Yeah, yeah. No, it was not easy at all. It was really like we had times where we were just desperate and but I didn't know like do we leave the project and go back to a world that has changed anyways or like the film was an act of also activism or I don't know it was yeah it felt like an important mission to finish it
And
so
I'm,
some
I'm
of
so,
us
yeah, I'm so happy you did. Like it's incredible that not only you finished it, or we got finished, but it also premiered at Sundance. So that's really awesome.
yeah and but I'm also privileged of having been able to stay on board because a lot of people especially the Palestinian crew they couldn't leave so it's also yeah not easy to have the crew be dismantled that way.
Yeah, I imagine.
Yeah.
Um, So the film takes place over multiple eras, multiple generations. There's a 1948 segment of the film, a 1978 segment, a 1988 segment, and then a 2022 segment of the film. And I think what really struck me is how there's a unified vision for how the film looks, but you have to tell all of these stories in their own way. Talk to me about your approach to having these unique eras and filming each era in an appropriate way for that era, but also trying to keep a unified vision for the movie as a whole.
Yeah, we wanted the film to have that same texture and same lenses throughout the film because we felt that the trauma that the family is going through feels like one emotion that we wanted to follow as a character. What we did was we had the 1940s feel much more steady, much more like the language was what was different in the way that it felt, yeah, more sophisticated and less fragile. And then in the 70s, we wanted the camera to be more handheld, feel much more fragile. And then in the 80s, at some point, the film becomes claustrophobic. Yeah, and then present day feels very sober, like coming out of a narration back to a world that is different now. Yeah,
Yeah, and I certainly feel all of that through these eras. And I think that's one of the things with the craft of making films is that when it's done really well, audiences may not even be conscious of what you're doing. But it certainly really adds to the storytelling texture in this movie.
yeah.
Um, tell me more about the equipment that you used. What kind of equipment did you use to make this to capture this film?
So we worked on an Alexa 35 that was really good because of the dynamic range that it has, and we mixed it with anamorphic lenses, two times anamorphic lenses, the V lights, just to give it some nostalgic feel and something that feels a bit more distant than shooting on spherical lenses. Initially, we wanted the present day to be on spherical lenses, wide angle, feel much more immersive. But then when Shirin and I tested the different lenses, we just felt that it would be nicer to have the whole film just have that one texture. So we didn't mix lenses anymore.
The trial and error kind of component to this is certainly important for making sure you get the right final product, right? I'm curious, was there a particular piece of equipment, whether a lens, a camera body, or anything in your purview, a particular piece of equipment that you found most useful in filming this movie?
We had different tools that were really good. I used a lot of dolly, like tracks and dollies this time, much more than usually. Um, yeah, but I had a really good crew, like the key grip. Yeah, the key grip just brags about being the fastest dolly man, and just he loves laying tracks. So I could just work in a way that felt very free sometimes. In terms of lenses, I use mostly the 35 millimeter lens. Maybe the whole film has is shot on 80% of on that lens. And then I used a lot of reflectors in the streets because we had so much sun, so I could reflect available light a lot. So I was using a lot of reflectors and of negative and a lot of negative fill.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I kind of want to talk about comfort zone. And maybe this you can expand a little bit on your career as a whole as a cinematographer. But I was wondering, how did working on All That's Left of You challenge you in what you're used to doing with cinematography or push you outside of your comfort zone?
Hmm. And that's a really good question because I think what I was confronted with for the first time was to see on the news scenes that were written in the script in the 40s. So I would see on the news what we were shooting, and it would also a lot of times just feel like we are shooting history, but we're seeing it live on the news. So in a way, there was that responsibility also of being part of history as it's happening and having the the responsibility of showing it for future generations or even for people now. So in a way, I don't know, it feels like my job as a cinematographer in that sense was different than usually, and it's not purely aesthetic, but it was also one of that has a message to carry with it.
Yeah, that word responsibility. That's a good
Yeah.
one. I think that that's so just really it really captures like the importance of this movie and the importance of your work in capturing it. So that's really awesome. Um, were you able to go to Sundance? Did you go to the premiere?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, tell me about your Sundance experience.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing to see how much people how people reacted to the film. I had also a lot of people who were not familiar with the situation, and they just went to the premiere without knowing or reading about the film. And then when they heard that I did the film, I just saw something like they just told me also that the film changed the way they saw the region and just humanizes people in a way that they haven't thought of before. Um, so I'm just grateful to have been part of this important film. Yeah, and Sundance was nice and cold.
And cold, yes. One of the defining features of Sundance is how cold it is. Well, I'm glad you had a chance to go and you had that experience and got to interact with people who had the chance to see the film. I'm gonna ask one more question. And
Yeah,
for my
please.
last question, yeah, for my last question, I want to ask about the final shot in the film. It is so, so beautiful how this film ends in that final shot. And it also parallels this poem that was introduced kind of early on in the film. So just like this really poetic full circle moment. Tell me about imagining that final shot and how what you originally imagined compared to what you ended up catching.
Hmm. So in the script originally it was a drone shot that goes over them pulling back, and then you see the city and the sea in front of them. And also after talking, we just felt it would be nicer to just have that symbolism and that also calmness in the image just to see those two people very old being part of the sea again. So it was just we just felt that maybe less is more, and just having that image static of them with the sea would give it much more depth than having a drone or anything else also be part of the shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Less is more. I think that you guys nailed it. It was just a very beautiful and of course poetic way to end the film and
Yeah.
just really solidified like how much I really, really loved this movie. So
Oh, nice. And there's a funny thing about that shot because even this shot is a VFX shot because we couldn't access the sea anymore. That was where
uh,
we wanted to shoot, which was in Jaffa, Tel Aviv. So we shot in Greece, and we had like, and the sea was full of islands in front of you. So even that sea was, we had to retouch the mountains and the islands out.
oh man, movie magic.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Christopher, thank you so much for talking with me. I'm really happy we had a chance to discuss this film, and I just want to get so much exposure for this movie because it really it has stayed with me ever since I've seen it, and I really am hoping that this has legs throughout the rest of the year and gets on more people's radars. So, congratulations again, okay?
yeah. Thank you so much.